Now that you've seen an overview of what an oligopoly industry looks like, let's look at the dynamics of the interaction between two firms in an oligopoly industry as they move from competition to cartel to chiseling and back to competition again. The two firms are both large, meaning that they can influence the market price by altering their output. Let's suppose that the market price of the product is 100 minus the outputs of the two firms. So for example, if one firm produces 10 units of output, the other firm produces 20 units of output, the market price is 100 minus 10 minus 20, or 70. If the two firms each produce 25 units of output, then the market price falls to 50. So the market price changes as each individual firm alters its output. For simplicity, let's assume that the firm's total cost is the amount of output it produces squared. So for example, if the firm produces 5 units of output, its total cost is $25. If it produces 10 units of output, its total cost is $100. The firm's goal, of course, is to maximize its profit. Profit is the price of the product multiplied by the number of units that the firm produces minus the firm's total cost. So it turns out that in the competitive oligopoly case, each of these firms will produce 20 units of output. They each produce 20 units of output. This gives us a market price of $60. Each firm's total cost is 20 squared, or 400. The firm's total revenue is the price of the product, $60, multiplied by the number of units the firm is producing, that's 20 units, or $1,200 for each firm. Each firm's profit is its total revenue minus its total cost, $1,200 minus $400, or $800. This is the competitive oligopoly scenario. Now we know that this is in equilibrium because if a single firm alters its output, it actually ends up with less profit. For example, suppose firm 1 increases its output from 20 to 21 units. By increasing its output, it drives the market price of the product down to $59. Its total revenue is now $1,239. Its total cost is $441. But notice that its profit has fallen from $800 to $798. So firm 1 is clearly worse off if it increases its output from 20 to 21. What about decreasing its output? If firm 1 decreases its output to 19, it drives the market price of the product up to $61. Firm 1's total revenue is now $61 times 19 units, or $1,159. Firm 1's total cost is $361, leaving it with a profit of $798. Again, less profit than it earned when it produced 20 units. So firm 1 is best off producing 20 units. Any more, any less, its profit declines. And because the two firms are identical, the same is true for firm 2. Firm 2's profit is maximum when it produces 20 units. Any more or any less, and firm 2's profit declines. Now this assumes that the two firms are acting independently. Suppose the two firms could act together. We call this collusion, or the group of firms we now call a cartel. In the cartel oligopoly case, the two firms work together so as to maximize their combined profits. In this case, notice that the firms can make more profit by decreasing their output to 17 units. Now this is not contradictory to what we said before. What we said before was if one firm decreases its output, that firm's profit will decline. Here, both the firms together are decreasing their outputs. Because both the firms are acting in concert, they can increase their profits to a higher level than they had in the competitive oligopoly scenario. In this example, the firms are best off if they both produce 17 units of output. That drives the market price up to $66. Each firm now makes a total revenue of $1,122 and incurs a total cost of $289. This leaves each firm with $833 of profit. This is more profit than they had in the competitive oligopoly scenario. The cartel is not stable. It will fall apart. And the reason it will fall apart is because once formed, there's tremendous incentive for the individual firms to cheat on the cartel agreement. We call this chiseling. For example, let's suppose the firms come to an agreement to produce 17 units each. And let's suppose firm 2 honors that agreement and actually does produce 17 units. What is firm 1's best response? If firm 2 is going to produce 17 units, firm 1 can make even more profit than in the cartel case. by increasing his output to 21 units. By increasing his output to 21 units, he drives the market price down from the cartel level of 66 to a price of 62. His total revenue rises to 1302. His total cost rises a little bit to 441. And he's left with a profit of $861. This is more profit than he was making in the cartel scenario. Now the problem here is that Firm 1 had incentive to cheat on the cartel. Firm 2 also has incentive to cheat on the cartel. In fact, Firm 2 has even more incentive to cheat now that Firm 1 has already cheated. If Firm 1 is producing 21 units of output, what is Firm 2's best response? Well, it turns out that Firm 2's best response is to produce 20 units of output. By increasing its output from 17 to 20, the market price falls to 59. Firm 2 makes $1180 in total revenue, incurs $400 in cost for a profit of $780. This is more profit than he was making when Firm 1 was cheating and Firm 2 was holding to the cartel agreement. So we had Firm 1 cheat. We had Firm 2 realize there's no point in holding to the cartel agreement, so Firm 2 increases his output to 20 units. But Firm 1 now, in response, has an incentive to cut back on his output. By cutting back from 21 to 20, Firm 1's profit rises from 798 to 800. And notice something. We're back at the competitive oligopoly scenario. That is, when oligopolists form a cartel, each oligopolist has tremendous incentive to cheat. But once they start to cheat, they're now acting independently. And when they act independently, we end up back at the competitive oligopoly scenario. It's because of this that economists don't concern themselves too much about the existence of cartels. While cartels can form and can drive the price of the product up, and the oligopolists end up making more economic profit at the expense of consumers, the fact is that there's tremendous incentive for the individual firms to cheat. And when they do so, the cartel breaks apart and you end up back at the competitive oligopoly case. And we see this, for example, when we look at the oil industry. Oil-producing nations frequently come together to form cartels. In forming the cartels, they agree to restrict their production of oil. The price of oil rises. And it stays this way for a period of time. Eventually, one of the nations discovers that it's better to cheat on the cartel agreement than to hold to it. One country cheats, other countries start to cheat as well, and we end up back at the competitive oligopoly scenario.